were in the video, and you were very humble, maybe in a sense of, you guys did the work. It was, might have been a couple words that I said, but they did the work. Can you kind of maybe elaborate a little bit on that? Maybe what the couple words were that you think resonated.
Yeah, one of the things that I think both Paul and Jackson, but Jackson specifically, has commented to me, it's more resilience. When you're coming from a youth soccer world and then move into an environment that is high performance is a big phrase, but it's at least a little more cutthroat. Like we have one purpose on the development side, and that's to create future pros. It's not to get a kid to college. And the fact that Jackson went to college and then got drafted and didn't stick, and he had to. It wasn't begging, but he did call and say, "Listen, I don't have any options. Can you bring me in?" That required a degree of humility on his part that I think is just necessary. Nothing is going to be given to you. Rare is the superstar that's a superstar from 12. Usually the 12-year-olds that are great are done by 18. They flame out, sort of. But I'm proud of what he's done, and his route, while circuitous, is not unusual. Certainly in our first team, you can see a number of players that took the college route, whether we drafted them in a Christian Roldan sense, or he was here and then he left and then he came back. We've got a couple of those as well. Dylan Tevez is an example. Paul's an example. Jacob Castro. So there's many ways to do it, and I'm happy that Jackson stuck with it and didn't. He probably had other options. I don't know what Plan B is for him. I haven't asked.
When you say, have you received that type of call before?
Yeah. We have an open arms, not just open door, but any former academy player we have time for. We have them in to train. Sometimes when they're in college, they come back in the summer and they train with Defiance. We have one right now who spent some of the summer with Ballard FC, and he's going to go back to UW starting in the winter. And so it's just kind of, once you're in, we'll do anything we can to support you. I'll use an example of Eric Kinsner, another center back, left-footed, signed to the second team. It didn't work out here. He went to Rio Grande Valley. That team folded. He's looking for a spot. I had him in for Defiance just to train. Listen, we want to continue to be a resource for our former academy kids at every step of the way if we can. Jordy DeLem is a great example of a development system guy. He was in S2 back in the day, and he's retired now, but he had an injury that he had no place to train. So yeah, come on in and train. It's we're that's not the primary use of the second team, but it's certainly something that I hope all our ex-players know. I mean, I still keep in touch with Sam Rogers and guys that are doing great, playing elsewhere. Jesse Daly, whether academy or second team guys. So it's been wonderful to see this grow over the years from a vehicle for older players to a vehicle for really young players. I'm speaking the second team, to now this sort of hybrid where we have guys in the second team, Elias Katsaros, Gio Miglietti, academy kids that went to college and came back and are playing for Tino Lopez, getting lots of minutes for the second team. One of them might be the next Ragen, Rothrock, etc.
Do you ever have conversations about how long to give it before you do become a Paul or a Paul?
Yeah. Those two names blend into one.
Yeah, Ragen or Jackson.
No. Yeah. No, I just think everyone's timeline is different. It depends on the role college plays in your future, and I am one of those that benefited from the college pathway, but that's in the Ragen years. That's how long ago it was. Yeah, not Jackson Ragen. Yeah. So that idea that I'm going to ride this until the horse dies or whatever. that's up to the individual. And if you have alternatives, if you have a passion for playing, just, my advice is always just keep playing. There's other people who already have their eye on what's next. They want to coach, they want to be involved in the game. I think that, it's specific to individuals. It's not, there's not a hard and fast rule.
Jackson and Paul are examples of players who, like you said, that came away, left and came back. But you look at this team, and 6 of the 11 players either went to high school or college in the area. I believe 14 players on the 28-man roster fit the same criteria. There's a lot of players here who have strong local ties. I mean, obviously, you've only worked for the Sounders, but do you get the sense that the Sounders are significantly more committed to developing local talent than anyone else, or how would you sort of explain that situation?
It's in the water. We have a thriving soccer culture here. One only has to look at the success the University of Washington has had, Seattle University, Seattle Pacific University. We're talking national championships for the latter 2 of those teams, and UW has played in a final, and they consistently produce good players. But even it goes beyond that. The number of ex-pros that are involved coaching at the youth level, I just think there's something to be said for having the density that exists in the Puget Sound area. And I can't ignore Eastern Washington, because there's a large population of soccer talent on the other side of the mountains as well that we do everything we can to keep track of and tap and bring in. But I've only worked for the Sounders at the MLS level, but I think it's unique. I know Portland has a wonderful soccer culture as well, supporters and everything else, but you don't see it in their first team. It's a commitment, and I know Schmetz, I've known him for a long time. I know that he has it's not a soft spot, because he can be quite hard on young players. He demands a level of excellence every day in training that can be difficult for a young person who's going to be naturally more inconsistent. But there is something maybe in the DNA that resonates with him. I know that including Jordan Morris, the number of goals and assists created by local people. I mean, yes, Jordan is a local person, so of course I have to include him. And he was an academy player a long, long time ago. But the numbers kind of speak for themselves. It's been a really good year for that. And it's not that I don't care, but like the fan base wants championships. They want championships. And Brian wants championships. And Brian is a coach that's taken this team to 6 finals. I think it's 6, including the one in Vegas in his tenure. That is not easy to do. And so whatever he sees and does, I'm gonna roll with that. I'm gonna lean into that.
With that said, MLS changed, and it's grown, and it's evolved, and there are teams that are definitely more willing to bring in talent from abroad and create this balance. What's the way, and how does the Sounders continue to be true to their theory and what's in the water, and evolve with the league?
Yeah, I think the first thing to do is just to make sure your scouting department is robust. You recruit players of good character that can contribute on and off the field. I think for our club, that's always been, we are part of the community. So that first part, and I'm speaking there of the top end, not necessarily the supporting cast of development players, but we're talking the DPs, the young DPs. You've got to do a good job with that. And I think on the development side, we have to be ambitious in our recruiting. Georgie Monongu's an example of that. We spent money on him, not for the first team. We spent it for the development side, and it's paid off in a player who we think can be productive for the first team for a long time. Obed Vargas is from Alaska. That's kind of abroad. Danny Leva's from Vegas. We've got examples of players who we've brought into the development side from other places, and there's an expense associated with that. We have to be willing to continue to spend that. Seattle, if you compare our population, the Puget Sound area, we're nothing like LA or New York or Chicago. They've got so many more people, and that will translate to more top talent. So we have to be more aggressive in making sure that we leave no stone unturned locally. There are players playing in local leagues that aren't high profile, that are really good players that we need to get eyes on. And so that's on us to make sure we don't stop doing that. And we certainly don't rest on any laurels. Who is going to be the next Jordan Morris? The guy who's in the national team, who's, that like his profile, we'd love to have another come through our pipeline. I don't know who that is. I don't know if they're here yet. But a player's evolution between the ages of 14 and, how old is Jordan now, 29? Yeah, a lot changes. A lot changes. So the young, spindly kid that is falling over his shoes, might one day turn into the next. So for us to be patient and have high standards, I think is critical.
On that same token, if my memory is correct, Jackson was kind of that player when he was a teenager. What did you see in him at the time? How would you say? Did you see him getting to a point where he was a written in ink starter on a team with aspirations for MLS Cup?
Yes, yeah. And I've not seen that with many, but it was a combination of his physical stature. I mean, he had the frame for it. He had the feet for it. He was never he was always one of the better technical players, and he had the temperament for it. And I knew that when he got sent off in an academy game. That sounds counterintuitive, but sometimes you got to cross a line to know where it is. Apparently I use a lot of phrases. I think they're cliches, but they stick with a lot of players. I know Obed has quoted me before, but that is one of them. That that if you never cross that line, you never get your hands on the reins to be able to restrain yourself. And Jackson did. He got sent off in a game we couldn't afford to lose, and I didn't have a backup center back, and it put us in a real pickle. And I remember having to sit down with him, and he understood, but he can snap. So what is that? There's another one I use. The threat of violence is more productive than violence itself, right? That your opponent needs to think you can go off the rails. It really helps if you don't go off the rails. That's not a good thing. But if they think you have it in you, they'll look over their shoulder. They'll make sure they know where you are. It keeps everybody in line.
What was it that he did? Like what?
He punched a guy. Yeah, it wasn't a second yellow. It was a straight red. He was 18 years old and stupid, and we all were at one point.
The one thing now that Christian kind of mentioned was just the niceties of Seattle and how great these players are off the field as far as being nice guys. How do you see him developing on the leadership, kind of side, and being willing to tell people where to go and just be a little bit more vocal and instructive?
He's always been an organizer. He is one that it is the moment when you're a youth soccer player, when you realize you can manipulate others with your voice. It's a powerful moment because most players don't grow up thinking about that. It's kicking and running and all that other stuff. But that other element of the game, a center back's job gets really easy if everyone is in the right position around you. I think it's the easiest job on the team. And he understands that. Now, when you play at Lumen and it's a big crowd and it's noisy, sometimes players can't hear you, so it gets very primal. It's monosyllabic, it's barking more than talking. But that Jackson got that from an early age. He understood that. And that's when, you referenced that maybe I was being humble in the interview. I really do feel that. Jackson came in with the tools. He had them from a really young age. It was more a question of just steering and guiding. It wasn't. I didn't create anything that wasn't already there. you pull back the curtain, and if this doesn't fall on me, I am the little wizard, with manipulating the levers. It's nothing special.